What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another Fridge Financials video. In today's video, we are breaking down one of the ETFs that I'm investing in, and believe it or not, the math behind it has broken down to show that it has outperformed the S&P 500 since I started investing in it in November of last year. So if you're excited for today's video, feel free as always to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, turn on those bell notifications for all future uploads. Now, we're going to be breaking down this ETF here in particular. It does pay out dividends as a result of it. So factoring in the dividends and my initial cost basis, we're going to give you guys the grand total of how much money we have put into it. So, and what we're looking at is ticker symbol BITO, which is a ProShares Bitcoin ETF futures, which has derivatives and everything else here is crypto futures, and they do pay out a monthly dividend. Now, on top of this, the thing that you be careful with, the expense ratio is a little bit high because the dividend is ridiculously high. And so the Bitcoin ETF here basically manages Bitcoin futures, so the price of Bitcoin, as that changes, BITO changes as well with their prices and their dividends and everything else. They basically are selling options behind the scenes here and using that kind of cash flow to then pay out these dividends every single month, kind of like a yield max ETF, but with Bitcoin futures instead. So it's kind of similar in that aspect, but obviously it does have a high expense ratio as a result. And we do talk about NAV erosion and everything else here about investing in these high dividend paying ETFs like the yield maxes, BITO, like all these different ones do have a high NAV erosion here. But we're going to break down the initial cost basis because I love breaking down the numbers here. We're going to factor in the dividends, and we're going to be looking at also how much I made from selling options on BITO and what the overall return is. So what you will see right now is that my average cost is $22.04, and I have 200 shares. Just to make it easier, we're going to do 200 shares here just for the math purposes. And the idea behind it is that we've had a nice little run up with Bitcoin recently as a result. So ProShares Bitcoin ETF has done well as well. Obviously, this is not going to do as well as Bitcoin. So people might make the argument of saying, well, Fridge, why don't you just buy Bitcoin itself directly? And we'll talk about that a little bit later on as to pros and cons and how I look at it more in this aspect here. But so average cost basis, $22.04, and the shares are 200 shares. And right now we're up $137. The problem that we're facing right now with this right here is that I have two covered calls that are at strike prices of $22.50, and right now it's a little bit above that as a result. So this total return here is being offset by these contracts here because I will be forced to sell my shares at $22.50 come market close tomorrow. So between now and market close tomorrow, we might have to offload these shares at $22.50. But so what we're going to do here is we'll bring in the calculator here and do some quick math here to talk about the initial cost basis here. And we'll keep track of the math, and I'll put them on the screen as well so that way you can see what the overall return is as a result. So we have $22.04 per share times the 200 shares gives me an initial cost basis of $4,408. So we have $4,408 is my initial cost basis for this position here. And we'll move that back over and we'll break down some math here. Now, I've been able to have collected passive income and cash from this ETF in two ways. The dividends, because it has a very high dividend yield, and also as a result, selling covered calls, and because I have over 100 shares. I have 200 shares here. So when we're taking a look here, we'll go down and look at the historical data here behind it. And again, as you can see, we did start doing this in November 22nd of 2024. And again, the reason why I make a note of this is because this, I'm going to compare it from this date till now for this ETF with how much money I've made and with SPY ETF and talk about the difference here. So what we're looking at here first is the dividends that we have paid out here. And we've gotten quite a lot of dividends over the year. So we're bringing the calculator here, and these are all the dividends that we have received as a result. So we have 23.74 plus 26.52 plus 42.40 plus 75.50. Again, these do pay out monthly dividends. So every month I'm getting a paycheck, and it does fluctuate. As you can see, it does fluctuate from time to time because it's based on how Bitcoin does, right? So if Bitcoin does better, maybe the dividend's a little bit better. If Bitcoin does worse, then the dividend's a little bit worse here. But what we're looking at here is, as you watch me do on my screen here, we're looking at $523.01. That 1 penny makes a difference. $523.01 in just dividends by itself. So that's really, really good. I got $500 in less than a year of just passive income. It hits my account every single month. And I didn't reinvest these, which if I did reinvest, it would have been a little bit better. I would have gotten, what, $20 or $22 a share right now. So you're looking at probably another, 20 something shares as a result of it, which could have made more. But that cash instead, and I put it into different investments and different trades and different options and everything else. So those are my dividends there. Now, the next portion is going to be us having to factor in, I guess we can do orders maybe. Yeah, we could do orders, I guess, and we'll bring back up the calculator here. So what we're gonna be looking at is now selling covered calls. I've been selling covered calls ever since I had over 100 shares here, which again, as you can see, if you add up all these, gets you over 100 shares. So my first sold covered call was at March 5th for $22 strike price. Got paid $24. I bought it back to close about a week later for $4. So right now, this right here, I sold it. I collected 24, bought it back for 4. So that makes me that I'm up $20 right now from the covered calls. Keep going. Again, this is me trying to get filled on certain covered calls here. We had another covered call here at $50 right here. And what you will notice is I started selling another one. So this one expired worthless right here because I was trying to buy it back and it just wasn't getting bought back. And I was like, all right, I'll just let it run and just let it expire. Let it expire worthless. So we made an extra $50 there. So we'll add that in as well. Next one is that we sold a cover call April 14th for $31 here. And then I didn't like that Bitcoin part that I wanted to roll this option out because I probably would have gotten exercised before the dividend payout was going to happen. So I rolled this contract out further. I got paid an additional $4 for it, and you can take a look and see that we got paid an additional $4 here as a result of it. So what we're looking at is $35 between these two here because we rolled it out. And then I bought it back for $7 right here. So $35 here minus $7 for buying it back gives me $28 in profit total on that one. And then the last but not least one, we did 2 contracts at $19 each, and those are going to expire probably in the money, and then we're going to be able to give away our shares there as a result of it. So that's going to be looking at $38 here as a result, which gives me a covered call cash flow of $136. So again, breaking it down, kind of going through really quick, kind of to show you the idea behind it. Again, selling a covered call here, made $20 here, plus 70 or plus 50 gives me $70 here. 35 minus the 7 for buying it back here. So that puts us at 28. So that puts us at $98. And then plus the 38 here gives me 136. So kind of breaking down the math there. Okay. Let's go back. Let's go back. All right. So now here we are. And again, we're going to be exercising these probably shares. I'm going to factor in that we're going to exercise these shares at $20.50 per share here. So here's how this is going to work. So we're going to be selling off 200 shares at $20.50 for each one, which means that even though I'm up more than this, I'm actually going to be selling all my shares at $4,500 in cash, which means I remember my initial cost basis was $4,408, which we did earlier. We are going to be up essentially a big old whopping $92 when the cover calls called away my shares. Okay, I'm not factoring in what it's at right now because I'm up $137. But again, this is the problem with covered calls is that when they go in the money, even though I'm up $137, I'm actually going to only collect $92 because I have to be selling them at $22.50. Right here. So just something to keep in mind about as you know with covered calls here. So let's break down the overall profits here. So we have made, so again, the initial investment that we had was $4,408. So that's how much that's the average cost here that we have. Again, no dividend reinvesting was going on here. You can look through all those dividends there. They're just paid out in cash. And I was buying in myself I was just putting in extra cash myself, but I wasn't using like drip reinvestment in that case. So let's take a look and break it down here. So we made $522.01 from dividends. That 1 cent makes a difference, I promise. Probably not. Plus, we made $136 from selling cover calls. Plus, we're going to make $92 from the share appreciation. We will have made $751.01. Now, again, our initial investment was $4,408. So if I take this value divided by $4,408, that gives me a return of about 17%. 17% return. A 17% return on my cash with dividends, with covered calls, with appreciation value. We're looking at 17% return from November 22nd till now. Let's see how SPY did. So taking a look at SPY here. So here's SPY. So here's November 22nd. And look at that, of about 5%. So we actually more than tripled the return of SPYs since we started investing in BITO as of November of last year. Numbers can't lie here, and so that's absolutely amazing. I can't believe that we've actually basically tripled. Again, they had that crazy sell-off here, and while this sell-off is happening, I was getting more and more dividends still, so that kind of helps out a little bit. But now that the market's recovering back towards all-time highs here, will it sustain? I'm not really quite sure, but I'm actually kind of happy to get out of the position, being up 17% overall, while SPY's only up 4.5%. So pretty nice. Now people say, well, Fridge, why don't we just get into Bitcoin, right? Because if you go into Bitcoin itself, we take a look at the 1 year, and we go from November 22nd up till now. So we were up 52% as of November 22nd. Now we're up 81%. So looking at about almost 30% upside. And saying, well, Fridge, why don't you just go into Bitcoin? Yeah, you could go into Bitcoin and get the 30% upside there. And I only made 17%, sure. But what I've liked about Bitcoin, about BITO in particular, is that not only am I able to collect mass passive income and dividends that Bitcoin doesn't provide. Bitcoin doesn't give us dividends. Bitcoin doesn't give us that kind of cash flow as a result. You have it as an unrealized gain while Bitcoin goes higher or goes lower. So BITO always was paying me a monthly dividend, which was great cash flow. I can see it in my account. I would be excited about it. I can use it. I can put it into whatever it is I put into to keep moving my investments along. The other thing I also like about BITO is that you're able to sell covered calls and cash secure puts. You have the options chain with it. And not only is it the options chain, but it's also a pretty liquid options chain, because look at all the strike prices that you have here. There's a lot of strike prices here that you have, and there's actually a lot of volume as well. Again, volume 903, open interest 2007, right? So very nice cash flow there you're getting as well. You can sell covered calls. You can be able to make a passive income that way as well. So it's a very nice ETF so far, but it looks like I'm going to get called away probably at the end of this week here. No big deal. I'm going to use that cash to then build up my cryptos and my other investments as a result of it. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you made it this far in the video, as always, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, turn on those bell notifications for all future uploads. But yeah, this BITO ETF so far from November till now has over tripled the return of the S&P 500. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Hope you're making money in the market in some way, shape, or form. And as always, I will see you in the next video.